But there's also back there is Mazda's Group B four-wheel drive prototype that we built with them. Well, of course, that goes back to when I was maybe 16 years old. My dad had taken my brother and I to different race meetings in the Auckland area, you know, the old Ardmore racetrack, to watch the likes of Sterling Moss and Jack Brabham and those guys race once a year there, and then also to Speedway. So we were exposed as kids to motorsports, and then of course he took it one step further and built us a go-kart where we lived on our farm in Dairy Flat, and what I'd call a very agricultural go-kart, but was the first real experience at you know, getting the sensation and thrill of driving at speed. And, you know, of course, in those days wasn't very fast, but still it seemed fast when you're a really young kid. And then, of course, getting a driver's license at age 15, and then also going to additional motorsport events. And, you know, perhaps that's when the bug started, and said, you know what, I'd like to go and do a hill climb, a gravel hill climb in a car I had, which was a little Datsun 1200, and wasn't very fast. But, you know, it was the first feeling of what it was like to compete in a motorsports level. Good chance I came last. But, you know, that's the bug that you tend to get. The bug that motorsports sort of does for people that are determined to see if they can make improvements. And it's not just the improvements in your driving style, but improvements in your vehicle you're going to race. So it becomes a big sacrifice, and in terms of all your energies and resources are all focused on, you know, going faster, trying to beat your competitors, building a better machine, working harder, having several jobs to get the funding, the finances and all that. And, you know, in those days, those cars weren't very sophisticated at all. But, you know, we did whatever we could do to step it up a level every event that we went to. That's a really difficult, and it's to the point where there isn't one outstanding, memorable, you know, achievement or anything I did. You know, there was, you know, winning the New Zealand Rally Championship when I never expected to win it, but winning it 3 years in a row. Looking back on it, I was thrilled with the approach, and the approach initially in '75. I certainly wasn't the fastest guy there, and my car wasn't the Mazda RX-3. It wasn't the fastest car, but we were consistent, and we ended up winning rallies when our competitors either made mistakes and went off the road, or had mechanical problems and failed to finish. We only, I think, won one event that year, but during the season we accumulated more points than the others to win the first championship in '75. You know, took the same approach in '76 and won the second championship with the RX-3. And by then the car was getting faster and faster. And in '77, we won, I think, half the events because we were faster than the other guys. So, you know, it's a little bit of a patience, a lot of dedication and commitment to figure out what you need to do to win a championship. And that was perhaps the biggest thing I learned from those early days, is to win a championship, you must finish every event. You're not going to win them all. There's going to be challenges that you didn't foresee. You didn't know what was going to happen, whether it be the terrain, you know, the weather conditions, the car, the mechanical, flat tires, or just driver errors. There's going to be a lot of things. So you always try to keep a bit in reserve, drive within your own skills and ability, and try to beat your competitors that way. And so that worked out really well for me, and that sort of set me up to fully understand that I perhaps did have a future. I wanted to take that a step further, and of course, living in New Zealand, you do need to move outside of the country. You've got to go to bigger ponds, and the small fish in New Zealand. Yeah, that was fun, but you need to have bigger challenges where the competition is greater, and the types of terrain, especially in the rally car, was very, very different, and I needed to understand and learn all that, and so exploring racing in Australia, rallies in Australia in the mid-70s, and then a couple of events in England in 77 era. I settled in 1978 by moving to the US and doing the full rally series there, starting, building a car in 78 and doing that in 79, and taking that same approach of always finishing, learning, lots of learning. Golly, we were doing desert events, we were doing snow and ice events, we were doing mountain events and forestry events, and the terrain, as you can appreciate and begin to expect, the size of the United States, takes you from one end of the country to the other, whether it be the middle of winter or the heat of the summer, and you're exposed to so many things that you were never exposed to, but it's all good stuff, and it was very character building. There was mistakes made along the way. There's a few cars destroyed. But trying to take that same approach of being consistent and always being there at the end was always my goal. And by 81, we'd won our first championship, so we just moved on from there. So in the US, my main competitor was driving the Audi factory Group B car. It started out as their long wheelbase car, and then it went to their short wheelbase car. So it was 500-600 horsepower. It was a true Group B car. And even at times, Hanno Mikkola came and drove the event. So we designed a Mazda RX-7 into a four-wheel drive car. We'd been successful winning the championship as a two-wheel drive car. So in 83, that's where we went. We ended up winning against the Audi Quattro the second event with this car. We didn't have anywhere near the horsepower. We only had 300 horsepower, but we had a lighter, better balanced chassis than the Audi. And there were certain events that we were very competitive on, right down to the fact in 1985, we won the manufacturer's title for Mazda against the Audi factory team. So, yes, we did compete against the Group B cars. And when they came, when the World Rally Championship came to Washington, we were allowed to compete against them, although our times in the WRC did not count. But for the US Rally Series, those times did count. I was very, very fortunate that many people, whether it be when I was racing in New Zealand, the whole Mazda dealer network throughout the country contributed to our rally success financially. Then I had lots of friends that contributed their time and energy, not only to navigate, but to mechanic on the rallies, for the events we do. We didn't have a paid crew or anything. We'd work on the car as a group at night time and go to the events. And then, of course, when I moved overseas, I developed a different group of people that I worked with, and they worked with me, and we were successful as a team, not as an individual. And you could sort of say throughout my motorsports career, the goal was to surround yourself with people that had skills that you didn't have, and but as a team, we collectively had a lot of skills and a lot of determination and dedication to be successful. We wanted to be the best at what we did. So, it started in the workshop. Perhaps it even started before that. It started trying to establish the backing and the financial backing and the whole overall plan of what you were going to do. And then it moved to the workshop to design a machine that was better than the others. Not always was, but that was a goal. And then a lot of testing and practice to refine that machine. Because just because it was something new and different and being built and rolled out didn't mean to say it was going to be wonderful. There was quite a few vehicles that we would spend weeks on developing, refining them until we got them better. They had all the right ingredients to be better, but the tuning of the suspension, the balance of the car, the whole drive system, especially the four-wheel drive cars, to get all that balance to make it, for me as a driver, comfortable and confident that I could push that car and push it more and more and more, was really, really rewarding. But it was a whole team effort to make that happen. There's a lot of ways to go about that. Of course, first step is you go and spectate and watch and stand on the sidelines. If you can get to an event and watch what the crew's doing with the car, what's the driver doing, what's the mechanics doing, try and get an understanding and appreciation of what that whole big picture is, to get there early in the morning, to get things set up and established. And it's not just about the race car, the race team, but it's a presentation of all your work and effort to the public, to others, that you really care, you're passionate, your car looks really good, you've put all the effort in. So once you get an understanding of what all that is about, then there's ways to get involved. First off, I would volunteer. Go to one of those teams and say, is there anything I can do to help out on the weekends or whatever? Can I empty your trash cans? Can I sweep up under the car? Can I start from the ground up? And I've had guys work with me that have really started from the ground up and have become so passionate. You can't help but give them more and more responsibility. And of course, they're learning, you're appreciating that, and you're giving them more opportunity as well. So to me, that's the best way to start. We've seen excellent drivers that have started out that way, have been mechanics on the car, you could say pretty amateurish as a starting point, but have been mechanics on the cars, and before you know it, they've upped their game, and now they may be the driver. But they've shown the passion and the desire, which people recognize that. People on the outside or within the team, they see that this guy here will do whatever it takes. And so you understand that, and those are the folks that get the opportunities. And it may not happen with the first team, but it might happen with the second team. So I guess my answer to all of that is you just don't give up. Live your dreams. But you've got to be prepared to make the sacrifices, work hard at it, and you'll be surprised where that takes you. I've been fortunate. I've been able to keep any what I call significantly important car. I've stored these cars for decades, mainly in the US, which is where you could say the majority of my motorsports in my adult life took place. So they've been a bit of a pain to store them up in buildings on shelves and stuff like that, and move around as I've moved around. And now that we've built the barns down here at New Zealand here, so they all live in one place. Every one of them is special to me because they all hold lots of memories and stories. And it's not often I wander through the barns, but when I do, I could look at any one car and it represents a chunk of my life and what I was able to do and where I was able to go, the adventure that it took me to. You know, I raced the Porsche Cayenne throughout Russia there, a 16-day event. You know, all those ones are representative of my journey. So, you know, there's some folks later on in life, they collect artwork, you know. I just saved all my old cars, and they all run great. And, you know, once a year I normally pull them out and we run up and down the driveway, and that's fun to exercise them and, you know, keep things lubricated. And yeah, I still enjoy that. You know, a lot of memories come back as soon as I jump in and drive them and that. You know, I don't drive them anywhere near as fast as I used to. It's more about the memories for me. So out in the back shed, there's a tube frame car that we did in '86. Full tube frame, independent suspension front and rear. Much lighter than this car. But there's also back there is Mazda's Group B four-wheel drive prototype that we built with them, to their design, to all their drawings and everything, and tested and everything else, and was ready to go into production before Group B was cancelled. So there's only one ever built.
That's a gem.
And it sits in a shed behind us. You know, the Leadfoot Festival is something that my wife, Shelly, and I, we've been very passionate about. We've been very fortunate to be invited to the Goodwood Festival of Speed. You know, I think 8 times now we've taken different cars over there and have thoroughly enjoyed that. And along my journey, I'd always wanted to have a wonderful driveway to my house. And when I purchased this property on the Coromandel here nearly 20 years ago, I set about building that driveway, and then got invited to Goodwood. And after a few times running at Goodwood, you know, Shelley and I said, you know what, we could do basically a Goodwood South on the farm in New Zealand, and so we set about doing that, and that's been another adventure for us, you know, tied into our motorsports career and activities, where we've been able to invite people to come to the farm and race their cars, and so so friends and people from all different disciplines of motorsports have been able to come and experience racing up our 1 mile driveway. We only race 6 miles all weekend, but you know, there's lots of different functions and parties that we go to, and great friendships and great memories. So sort of that's key to why we do it, and
Elixir of life.
yeah, no, we really enjoy it.
All right, thank you very much for your time. It's been great chatting.
Sure, you're most welcome.